An hour after Jungkook left, the quiet of the estate was broken. Taehyung was in the backyard garden, holding a small watering can, looking at the pine trees. Suddenly, the sound of a heavy rustle came from the side fence. Taehyung turned, his heart instantly leaping into his throat. Climbing over the stone wall, his face twisted into a cocky, sinister smirk, was Young. Well, look at the little prince, Young said, dropping down onto the manicured grass, brushing the dirt off his leather jacket, playing gardener in your little palace. Taehyung stepped back, his hand shaking as his old instincts screamed at him to run, to hide under the stairs. But then he felt the weight of the phone in his hoodie pocket. He thought of Jungkook's words, "No one will ever judge you again. They have to go through me." He stood his ground, straightening his posture, his eyes locking onto Young with a cold, unyielding bravery. "Leave," Taehyung said. His voice was small, raspy, and trembling, but it was loud, clear, and steady enough to echo through the quiet yard. "Get out of my house." Young froze, his smirk faltering instantly. His eyes widened in sheer, utter disbelief. You can talk? You little actor? You've been playing mute all these years just to get sympathy?" Young's face turned ugly, and he took a predatory step forward, reaching out to grab Taehyung's arm. "I said, leave this house." Taehyung repeated, his voice stronger this time, echoing through the quiet yard. "You do not belong here. If you do not leave right now, I will call the police." Young's shock quickly morphed into a twisted, ugly rage. He took 3 aggressive steps forward, slamming the leather folder onto the patio table. "You little piece of trash! Don't you dare raise your voice to me! You think because you can squeak now, you're a big man? You sign these financial papers right now, every single page. If you don't, I will personally drag you out of this yard by your hair and show your precious husband exactly what kind of defective, broken garbage he married. Get your hands off my husband." The voice didn't come from the garden. It came from the gravel driveway. Young snapped his head around. Jungkook was standing there. He had returned early, feeling an inexplicable urge to check on Taehyung. His tailored suit jacket was unbuttoned, his hands shoved deep into his pockets, but his face was a mask of absolute, murderous fury. His dark eyes were fixed on Young like a predator targeting its prey. Young slowly pulled his hand back, forcing a nervous chuckle. "Ah, Mr. Jeon, I was just visiting my brother. Our father actually sent me to invite you both a family dinner tonight at the main house. A mandatory celebration of your marriage, traditional values." Jungkook walked forward, his heavy dress shoes crunching on the gravel, his steps slow and deliberate. He stopped right in front of Young, his towering frame completely eclipsing the stepbrother. "You have exactly 10 seconds to get off my property before I have my security team ensure you spend the next 5 years in a state penitentiary for trespassing and attempted kidnapping," Jungkook said, his voice dropping to a whisper that made Young's blood run cold. "And tell your father, we will accept the dinner invitation. We will be there at 8. Now get out." Young paled, looking between Jungkook's terrifying gaze and Taehyung's defiant stance. He turned on his heel and scrambled back over the wall like a rat. Jungkook turned around instantly, walking up to Taehyung, his hands reaching out to check the boy's shoulders, his arms. "Did he touch you? Are you hurt?" Taehyung shook his head, a soft smile breaking through his fear. He threw his arms around Jungkook's neck, burying his face in his shoulder. I told him to leave," he whispered proudly. Jungkook wrapped his arms around him, holding him tight. "I heard you, Tae. You were amazing. But tonight we finish this." The dining room of the Kim residence was thick with an oppressive, toxic tension. Mr. Kim and Meong sat at the head of the table, while Young sat across from Jungkook and Taehyung. The food laid out was expensive, but nobody was eating. Jungkook sat with his arms crossed, his posture radiating a cold, supreme corporate dominance that made the Kims look small despite being in their own home. Beside him, Taehyung sat quietly, his hand held firmly under the table by Jungkook's warm, reassuring fingers. Halfway through the tense evening, Jungkook's phone rang. It was an urgent call from a foreign investor regarding a major merger. Jungkook frowned, looking at the screen. Take it in the study, Jungkook, Mr. Kim said with an artificial oily smile. Jungkook looked at Taehyung, who gave him a small, reassuring nod. Jungkook reluctantly rose and stepped out of the dining room, walking down the hall to the quiet study to answer the call. The moment the door clicked shut behind Jungkook, the atmosphere in the dining room shifted instantly. Myung stood up, her face contorting into a mask of pure, vicious malice. She marched over to Taehyung, pulling a thick leather folder from her bag and slamming it down onto the table in front of him, along with a heavy pen. Sign it, she hissed, her voice a terrifying venomous whisper. Sign these release forms for the trust account and the property deeds right now, you silent freak. Taehyung kept his lips pressed tightly together, staring at the papers. He didn't move his hand toward the pen. Myung leaned down, her face inches from her fingers clawing into his shoulder with a painful force. Listen to me, you worthless brat. You think, because you have a rich husband now, you are safe from me. If you do not sign these papers by tonight, I will find out where you sleep. I will hunt you down, and I will make your life a living hell. I will torture you until you beg for death, just like your pathetic mother did. Sign it. Taehyung's breath hitched, the old fear clawing at his throat. But before he could spiral into panic, the dining room door was violently kicked open, slamming against the wall with a thunderous crash. John Jungkook stood in the doorway. He hadn't gone to the study, he had suspected a trap and had stayed right outside the door, overhearing every single venomous threat. His face was completely distorted by a towering, monstrous fury. He marched into the room like a god of destruction, his heavy strides shaking the floorboards. Before Myung could even pull her hand away, Jungkook stepped directly between them, violently shoving Minjae back away from his husband. Get your filthy hands off my husband, Jungkook roared, his voice booming through the house like thunder, causing the glass chandeliers to rattle. What is the meaning of this? Mr. Kim roared. John Jungkook. This is my house, and that boy is my son. You cannot come here and... Jungkook stood tall, shielding Taehyung completely behind his broad back. His eyes flashed with a terrifying primal dominance. He is not your son, he is my husband. Jungkook fired back, turning his blazing, lethal gaze onto the stepfather. Jungkook stepped up to Seojun's desk, leaning down, his presence utterly crushing the older man. Listen to me carefully, you pathetic excuse for a businessman. I heard every single word of your wife's threats. If you ever so much as breathe in Taehyung's direction again, I will personally initiate a full financial audit of your company by tomorrow morning. I will call in every single debt you owe to the Jeon conglomerate. I will freeze your assets, and I will ensure you are completely bankrupt and living on the streets by the end of the week. Try me. Mr. Kim paled, his knees shaking as he collapsed back into his chair, completely neutralized by the financial and physical threat. And you? Jungkook turned his deathly glare to Myung and Young. If I see a single one of you within a 5-mile radius of my husband, or if you so much as breathe his name, I will not just bankrupt you. I will personally ensure that every legal resource of the Jeon Corporation is used to dismantle your lives until you have nothing left but the rags on your backs. You are done. You do not exist to him anymore. Jungkook turned around, grabbing the leather folder from the table and ripping the papers into shreds, tossing them over the floor. He reached down, gently taking Taehyung's hand and pulling him up. We are leaving, now. The SUV sped through the dark, rainy night, the windshield wipers clacking aggressively against the glass. The silence inside the vehicle was heavy, vibrating with the residual adrenaline of the confrontation. Jungkook gripped the steering wheel tightly, his chest still heaving with anger. He looked at Taehyung out of the corner of his eye. Taehyung was staring out the side window, silent tears tracking down his cheeks, his shoulders shaking softly. Taehyunga, Jungkook said, his voice dropping into a gentle soft tone, a stark contrast to the monster he had been moments ago. I'm sorry you had to experience that. But they will never touch you again, I swear it to you. Taehyung turned his head, slowly, looking at Jungkook. The absolute protection he had witnessed tonight, the way Jungkook had stood as an immovable wall against his tormentors, finally broke the dam of his darkest, most painful secrets. Jungkooka. Taehyung's voice broke out, raspy, emotional, and raw. He turned his body toward him, the words tumbling out of his mouth in a desperate, cathartic flood. They did worse things. Jungkook's heart clenched. He slowed the vehicle down, pulling over onto the dark shoulder of the quiet road, turning off the engine. He turned around in his seat, looking at Taeyong with full, undivided attention. What do you mean, Taeyanga? Tell me. Taeyong clutched his own hands, his knuckles turning white as he sobbed, the dark truth finally tearing its way out of his soul. It wasn't just the hitting. They they are greedy. My biological mother left everything to me. They wanted the money. And young. Taehyung choked on a sob, his face twisting in a profound, agonizing shame. Young, when the lights were out, he would come to my room. He used to touch me, Jungkooka. Inappropriate, terrible touches. He told me I belonged to him. He told me if I ever told anyone, he would kill my friend Jimin. I had no voice. I couldn't scream for help. I was so dirty, so scared. Jungkook felt a cold, lethal fury wash over his entire being, a rage so deep and profound it transcended physical expression. His knuckles turned white against his seat, his jaw locked in a rigid line. The sheer, monstrous depravity of the Kim family was worse than anything he could have imagined. His sweet, beautiful, fragile Taehyung had been subjected to a living hell. Jungkook unbuckled his seatbelt and crawled over the console into the passenger side, pulling Taehyung directly into his lap, wrapping his arms around him with an incredible, desperate tightness. He held him as if he could physically shield him from the memories of the past. Look at me, Taehyung, Jungkook commanded softly, his voice cracking with intense emotion as he pulled Taehyung's face back up to look at him. Look into my eyes. Taehyung looked through his tears into Jungkook's dark, burning gaze. You are not dirty, Jungkook said, his words slow, deliberate, and absolute. You are pure. You are beautiful. You are the strongest person I have ever met in my entire life. What they did to you was evil, but it did not break you. Hear me clearly. That house has zero power over you anymore. You are a Jeon. You are my Kim Taehyung. I will spend the rest of my life making sure you are loved, protected, and honored. Never look down again. You have a voice, and you have me. Taehyung buried his face in Jungkook's neck, crying out a decade of pain, shame, and terror into the warm, safe embrace of the man who had truly become his savior. 2 months later. It was the final day before Jungkook's scheduled winter vacation from Jeon Logistics. The modern estate was covered in a pristine blanket of white snow, the pine trees sparkling like diamonds. Jungkook was at the downtown office finishing up a final board meeting, leaving Taehyung alone at the house. Taehyung was in the living room, wearing a soft grey cashmere sweater, reading a book by the fireplace. Suddenly, the sound of a heavy, violent banging echoed from the front iron gate, followed by the sound of glass breaking near the side terrace. The Step family had broken in. They had circumvented the outer wall, driven to absolute madness by the final bank foreclosure notice that had arrived that morning. Myung, Kangdae, and Young burst into the living room, their clothes disheveled, faces twisted in a desperate animalistic frenzy. Kangdae was holding a thick stack of property deeds, his hands shaking. "This is your last chance, you little bastard," Myung shrieked, flying toward Taehyung. "The bank is taking the house tomorrow. Sign these papers or I swear to God I will burn this place down with you in it." Taehyung didn't run. He didn't hide. He didn't look for a closet. He stood up from the armchair. He stood tall, his shoulders back, his long legs planted firmly on the polished floor. He looked down at them from his full height, his large eyes completely devoid of fear, replaced by a cold, majestic calm. "No," Taehyung said, his voice loud, clear, and ringing through the high-ceilinged room like a bell. Young stepped forward, trying to use his old, terrifying presence. "You think your rich husband can save you right now, Tae? He's at the office. We can break you before he even gets to the highway." Taehyung turned his gaze directly to Young. He took a step forward, invading Young's space, his eyes flashing with a fierce, dangerous light. "I know what you can do, Young," Taehyung said, every word sharp as a diamond. "I know how you looked at me. I know how you touched me when I couldn't speak. You are a predator, a coward. You think you can scare me? You are nothing but a ghost from a nightmare I have already woken up from." Young stumbled back a step, his face turning completely pale as his dark secrets were explicitly exposed in the bright afternoon light. Taehyung turned to Myung and Kangdae. "You want a signature? You will get nothing. This house belongs to me. My mother's estate belongs to me. And if you don't leave this property in the next 30 seconds, you won't just face the bank. You will face John Jungkook's immense wrath. And you know exactly what he will do to you." As if on cue, the heavy roar of a premium engine echoed from the driveway outside. The headlight, the abusers froze. The sheer terror of Jungkook's name, combined with the sudden realization that Taehyung was no longer a victim they could break, shattered their remaining courage. "Let's go. Let's go, Myung," Kangdae stuttered, dropping the papers onto the floor. He's gone. It's over." They turned and fled through the broken side door, scurrying into the snow like rats fleeing a sinking ship, disappearing into the woods forever. The front door opened. Jungkook burst into the room, his coat flying, his eyes frantic as he looked for danger. "Taehyung, Taehyung, I saw them leaving the hill. Did they?" He stopped at the top of the steps. Taehyung stood there, the cool breeze blowing through his soft hair, his cashmere sweater pristine. The scattered blank property papers were blowing away across the lawn like autumn leaves. Taehyung looked at Jungkook, and a radiant, breathtaking smile broke across his face, a smile of pure, absolute triumph and unadulterated happiness. "They are gone," Taehyung said, his voice clear, steady, and full of a beautiful life. "I sent them away. Jungkooka." Jungkook stared at him for a long moment, the realization of what Taehyung had achieved washing over him. The boy had stood into his own power. He had used his voice to conquer his demons. A profound wave of love, admiration, and absolute devotion filled Jungkook's chest. He stepped forward, reaching out and pulling Taehyung into his arms, lifting him slightly off the ground as he embraced him with a fierce, joyful tightness. "You did it," Jungkook whispered against his hair, a tear of pure pride slipping from his own eye. "You did it, my beautiful Taehyunga. You are free." Taehyung wrapped his arms tightly around Jungkook's neck, burying his face in the shoulder that had become his ultimate sanctuary. He was no longer a burden. He was no longer a curse. He was a survivor, a husband, and a man who had finally claimed his right to be heard. "I love you, Jungkook." Taehyung whispered, the words sweet, perfect, and absolute on his lips. Jungkook pulled back just enough to look into Taehyung's sparkling, soulful eyes, his own face breaking into a warm, radiant smile. I love you too, Taehyung. Welcome to your new life. A life of absolute safety, freedom, and unconditional love. Hand in hand, the two young men walked back into the villa, closing the heavy oak door behind them, sealing themselves inside a beautiful, vibrant future where silence was no longer a prison, but a peaceful choice shared between two souls who had found their home. Epilogue, the echo of music. 6 months later, the spring flowers were in full vibrant bloom throughout the Seongbuk-dong hills. The grand villa was no longer a quiet fortress. It was a home filled with laughter, music, and the constant presence of a real family. Jin and Namjoon had finally been allowed to visit, Jin weeping tears of absolute joy when Taehyung greeted him at the door with a bright, clear "Hello, Ioma." Yoongi had recently bought Taehyung a beautiful, grand piano for the living room. Taehyung had discovered a profound talent for music, his fingers flying across the ivory keys, his beautiful deep baritone voice singing old traditional melodies that echoed beautifully through the open windows. Jungkook walked into the living room on a warm Friday evening, carrying a bouquet of fresh white lilies. He set them down on the console and walked over to the piano, sliding onto the bench right next to his husband. Taehyung stopped playing, turning his head to smile beautifully at Jungkook, his doe eyes reflecting the warm evening sun. Don't stop, Jungkook whispered, leaning in to press a soft kiss to Taehyung's jawline. I love the sound of your voice, Tae. It's my favorite song. Taehyung let out a soft, beautiful laugh, leaning his head against Jungkook's broad shoulder. I was silent for 15 years, Jungkooka. Taehyung murmured softly, his hand sliding into Jungkook's, their fingers intertwining perfectly. But as long as I am with you, I will sing for the rest of my life. Jungkook smiled, squeezing his hand tight as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the world in shades of gold and violet. The echoes of the past were gone, replaced by the beautiful, eternal symphony of their love. The end.